Alright, today I'm going to be replacing a air conditioning compressor on a 2006 Toyota Matrix. This is the 10S15L model. This year and make of car has two different compressors. It either has the 10S15L or the 10S17L. I tried doing this last week and I didn't realize that I had the wrong compressor, so this is the new one. When you receive a compressor, you need to make sure that it has the right amount of oil in the compressor. And there's a little sticker here that, in this case, says add oil here, which is the ports where your high and low pressure hoses go. For this vehicle, I will say that Napa told me it was 4.5 ounces goes in the compressor, and CarQuest told me it was 4.6. 1/10 of an ounce, I'll probably be off that just in measuring it and with the residue left in the cup. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. The dealership would not tell me how much oil went in there. They said only that a certified technician could do it, so they couldn't give me the information. But this is the compressor, and we're going to replace it today. Alright, first off, in order to gain access to the tensioner pulley to remove the serpentine belt, I'm going to want to remove this plastic cover. There are two 10mm nuts that hold this on, and then there's two plastic pieces, which I've removed this enough time that I've actually lost them. A plastic piece here and a plastic piece there. Just take a pair of pliers and pull them directly out. You should get 2, maybe 3 times. You can reuse them. Then they start to tear apart. You can go to AutoZone. You'll find them in the little, they have parts rack there for just these little plastic pieces. They're on vehicles these days to replace them if need be. So I'm going to take this off. Next, I'm going to need to remove the serpentine belt and release the tension by loosening up this belt tensioner. You can see, let's see here, I'm pointing right there at that nut. Right there. Okay, I'm going to go and twist that to the right, like righty-tighty, and that should loosen the belt, and then I'll be able to slip the belt off the alternator and then take it right off. Before you do this, though, take note that you should draw yourself a picture of how the serpentine belt looks on this automobile. Here's that picture. Alright, so in this case, I just removed the serpentine belt from the compressor down below, so now you can see it. It's the portion there without the belt. It's right below the alternator. The alternator can be taken off with 2 bolts pretty easily. I suggest if you do that, though, to disconnect your battery. And if you remove your alternator, it gives you super easy access to the compressor. It is a little bit of a pain to put back on to line up the bottom bolt. To let you know, that was a 19mm to loosen up the belt tensioner. And now I'm going to start removing the compressor. I'm going to try to do it without removing the alternator. Maybe save me some time. Okay, so this is the low pressure side. We're going to take the cap off. And guys, I don't know if this is the proper way of doing it. I guess the best way to probably do it would be to put a manifold gauge set on there and see if it has any pressure in it. But that's what we're going to do. Alright, so there's nothing in there. It's empty. We're good. But I want to check the low pressure side first, just to make sure, you know, before testing the high pressure side, in case there's a blockage or something maybe in the system. Let's see what happens over here. Nothing. Okay, good. We are good. Alright, it's easier to see while this part's outside the vehicle of exactly what I'm doing, because like I said, I'm going to try not to remove the alternator to save myself time. There are 3 bolts holding this on. This one, and this one. This 4th piece of the bracket isn't attached from the Matrix. I don't know, maybe this part's for 2 different vehicles or more. So these are 12mm bolts, and these, there's a bolt there and a bolt there, are 10mm bolts. So I will be removing those. Also, there is this little electrical piece, and you can see there's a tab right here, and it pushes in. So literally, I just took a screwdriver, just like this, pushed it over, and then flaked it down, and that connector came right off. Alright, so this is the compressor that was removed from the vehicle. This is the original compressor that came with it. And if you were to take the time to get down and look at this what do you call it, sticker that's on here, it actually tells you 10S15L. Problem is, there's no way to see that without actually removing the part, but if, like me, you're trying to order the part offline, then, well, that's the only way you're going to find out which one you have, I guess. Another way to tell is that you can see this casing is very close to the edge of this bracket. When I had the 17L, it extended out another 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch past the bracket, and what happened was it was too long and too fat. Your oil dipstick is right back here, and it was bumping into that, and as a result I couldn't install the 17L. So hopefully that gives you some tips to identify the right one. At this point, if you're removing this for the first time, you're going to want to see if your compressor is blown. A good way to do this is to pour out all the oil, find out if it has any metal shards in it, or if the oil's discolored in any way. If either one of those two things occurred, then you need to replace all the components, including the evaporator core, the compression. I'm forgetting the name of it. This big radiator piece that hooks onto the front of your vehicle. This thing, I think it's called the compression core, and your I'm just spacing right now. Your expansion valve, and then you need to reinstall all these new parts, take it in, have the system flushed, and then properly charged. So I've already drained the oil out of this one when I did when I took it out here last week, and this was the oil I had left. There was a massive oil leak in the system, and I believe that's what caused it to fail. As you can see, there's no discoloration. The bright green is actually the UV light that we put in the system to identify a leak, and there's no metal shavings, and there's no discoloration to the oil. So it should be just that the old compressor sprang a leak, lost oil, stopped working, and then it just never started again, and thank goodness it didn't grenade the system. So now I'm going to open up this port, and I'm going to pour the oil out while rotating this piece here to get all the oil out and measure it. And again, this said it came stock with 3 ounces. It needs to have 4.5 to 4.6 ounces of oil in it. So that's what I'm going to try out right now. Alright, so now I'm going to take the new compressor and I'm going to check the oil content. So I'm going to flip this upside down and pour out the oil into a cup. While I'm doing this, I want to try to turn this rotor, because that will also, this is getting a little sketchy because I feel like I'm going to drop this thing on my cup and lose all my oil. But let's see here, twisting it both directions. Dun, dun, dun. Alright, well I'm going to keep doing this and see how much oil I can get out of it. Then I want to measure it and then add the correct proportion and then pour it back in. And as you can see, I'm pouring that out of the holes where the high and low pressure hose go. Alright, so I measured out the correct amount of oil, added it to the compressor. I replaced the cover because I'm about to install it in the vehicle. I don't want any dirt or grime falling in there, and I don't want any oil to fall out. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and spin it just to make sure that some oil gets preloaded into the system, so that when it does turn on, it should be lubricated. Okay, so I've got the 3 bolts put back into the compressor. They're there. I will say that it is easier not to remove the alternator, because now I just have to slip the serpentine back on the compressor, and pretty much that step's removed. Plus putting the alternator back in was kind of a pain last time, even though it's only 2 bolts. So now I'm going to replace these O-rings on the very end of the high and low pressure hoses, and then bolt those back in. Okay, are we filming?
Yeah.
Alright. So, I've replaced the O-rings on here. Before you install these, you're going to want to put a dab of oil on the ring and smear it around before you install this again. Picked up that trick from another professional YouTube AC fixer dude. Alright, that's it, killer. Okay, so the compressor's installed now. I've attached the wiring harness and screwed in the high and low pressure hoses. I don't know the torque specs for the high and low, so I went ahead and wrenched them down to snug and then a 1/4 extra turn. Didn't seem to hurt anything. I'm going to create a future video on replacing the expansion valve, which is there with the evap core, and then the decusant, which is also known as the dryer. In this case, it's like a little packet that shoves into the condenser. So I will make some videos of that. You can see those in future posts. And know that now that this is done, I'm going to take it back to a shop It'll cost me about 60 bucks for the service call and about 20 bucks for the refrigerant to have them vacuum this down to check for leaks and charge the system back to where it should. And yeah, all right, thanks for watching.